Leon here. Welcome to At Home with Music. And let's do a quick review of what we've learned so far. We've learned the staff and the treble clef and the notes on the staff. I also introduced you briefly to the bass clef, but that's not something we're going to worry about right now, and we'll get to that later. Right now, we're going to learn about chords. Now, the style of piano playing that you're going to learn during this series of Music Basics videos, what we call the popular method, is very different than the classical method. When you're learning classical piano, you've got the bass clef and the treble clef, and you've got to play all the notes that are there exactly as they're written, or as close as you can get, without hitting any wrong notes and so on. And that, of course, is very valuable. That's a good thing to learn. But in this method, you're going to be playing using one line of music with the treble clef, and you'll be learning to read what we call lead sheets. And here's an example of a lead sheet that I produced for one of my songwriting friends. And you can see that above the staff, there are chord symbols. So if I put a C up there or whatever, then that means you're going to be playing a C major chord. And then on the staff are the notes that give you the melody, and then below that are the lyrics. And so you use this as a guide to playing the song. You're not necessarily going to read it exactly as it's written, and a lot of times popular songs are written out in basic notation to give you a guide to the melody, but not meant to be played exactly as written because it might sound a little bit stiff. And as we continue on with this series of Music Basics videos, you'll see how that's going to work. So while you might think about playing the piano or the keyboard as playing a series of notes, in reality, what you're going to be doing is playing melodies that are, in a sense, derived and directed by chords, and you're going to be playing chords to accompany that melody. So let's get down to the basic definition. What is a chord? Well, basically a chord is a bunch of notes played together. So I could play literally any combination of notes on a keyboard, and that would be considered a chord. Now, of course, some chords are going to sound perfectly normal, and then some of them are going to sound a little bit weird. We're going to start with the normal, basic chords. And one thing about chords that you need to know is you need at least 3 notes to make a chord. So all the basic chords that I'm going to be teaching you have 3 or 4 notes. If you only have 2 notes, then you have what is known as an interval. Now, don't worry about that right now. We're going to study intervals later on down the road, especially when I teach you all how to play by ear. And yep, that's something that you can learn. And so we're going to start by learning how to play 3 basic chords. Each of the 3 basic chords have 3 notes in them, and they're very easy to find and play on the keyboard. Then, after we learn the 3 basic chords, which incidentally will enable you to play thousands of songs, but unfortunately all in the same key, but we're going to expand your chord vocabulary from 3 up to 12, then to 24, and then finally to 36 basic chords. And then there's a couple of special kinds of chords that we can add on top of that. So really 38 basic chords. And that's all there is, actually. You've got 36 basic chords and then 2 basic types of chords that you can use in your music to make it sound more interesting. And that's it. Now, of course, you might be thinking, but there's got to be thousands of chords. And indeed, there are thousands of them. I don't think I've ever tried to count how many actual chords there are, but there's a lot of them. But they're all based on these original basic 36 chords plus 2 chord types. And so the reason that I want you to learn all the basic chords is that this will enable you to play any song in any key. You can take a song in the key of C, and if you decide, well, I'm going to play this in the key of D, then you'll be able to transpose that song. That's the word we use when we want to change from one key to another. We transpose it. And we can change it from one key to another, from the key of C to the key of D, for example, for any key you want. And so we're going to learn all the basic chords. So there's our introduction. So now get your fingers ready, because in the next video, we're going to actually start playing chords on the keyboard.